Peace, family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. You are listening to the Classroom in the Cell podcast. I am joined by
Mumia Abu Jamal.
Oh, I like that dramatic pause, man. I was like, I didn't know what was coming next. I know your damn name. Still was wondering what was next.
Pregnant pause, brother.
Yo, that's it, man. That's it. I love it, man. That's that old school journalism. There have been, as of April 18th, which is a few days before you and I are speaking right now, there have been at least 18 school shootings in the United States this year. 18 between January 1st and April 18th. Now, 4 of them were on college campuses, and 14 were on K-12 school grounds. Out of those incidents, 9 people were left dead, 25 were injured. I mean, in any other place in the world, this would be the top headline in the country.
What does it reflect, brother?
That's a great question. One thing that's interesting to me, 2021, 2022, 2023, we've seen increases each year. Now, the only reason it dipped in 2020 was because of COVID. People just weren't, schools were closed, so you couldn't shoot nobody in school, right?
Right. Wasn't much school.
Right. And in years where sometimes the numbers were a little lower, the deaths were higher. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, there were 82 incidents in 2023, but in 2022, we had one of the deadliest years ever with 46 fatalities. That year saw the Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 students got killed, 2 educators got killed, and more than a dozen got injured. So anyway, all that to answer your question, there's a couple things here. One, schools are fundamentally unsafe spaces in the United States, right? And no matter how much we try to militarize them, we try to lock them up, we try to lock them down, we try to fill them with police, at the core, they remain fundamentally unsafe institutions. That's number one. Number two, the unsafety of the university, to me, is undoubtedly tied to our obsession with guns in this country. Part of why other people have school shootings like this is because other people don't got guns like this. You know, I'm sure there's something to be said about American culture, American pop culture, about America's violent ethos, and all that stuff. But there's a lot of violent countries out there. There's a lot of settler colonial countries out there. I expect all of them to have a kind of pedagogy of violence attached to them. But the difference is, I'm going to say it one more time, the difference is they ain't got access to the...
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
They ain't got the guns, and that for me is a big difference. What say you?
That's a big... Here's the thing that you haven't mentioned overtly.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of behavior has become profoundly normalized. It is no longer news worthy. You know, like TV stations will breaking news, there's a shooting, blah, blah, blah. And then 5 minutes later, they're talking about Trump.
Right.
You dig? Because even to journalists that are supposed to reflect what's happening in society and bring it to, discussion and consciousness, it's normalized, man.
Yeah.
And because it is an American cultural pathology, an American cultural pathology. And it's because the political crisis is so profound in America, right? They don't have a solution because they don't want a solution, right?
Right.
They have nothing, I mean, not even ideas, right? This is America. You know how sometimes when an event happens, a president comes out and says, this is not who we are. Well, guess what? This is who we are.
Yeah.
Because in many cases, it's baby. I saw pictures of a kid the other day. They bust this kid because he turned in he gave a friend a manuscript of his plan to shoot up the school. This is a kid searching and screaming for help, really.
Yeah.
And in many of these cases, even from Columbine, remember how shocking Columbine was?
Oh, yeah.
This is not that. And, you look at Uvalde and Columbine, right? And what you see is not kind of the paragraphing of events in American culture. You see an uprising graph, right, of increasing violence and destruction of children in schools, primarily. The site can be any place, but primarily it's schools because of what these kids are receiving in school is a diet of bullying. If they have any, let's say they're autistic or they have any behavioral weirdness or they're short and scrawny and small, they're bullied. And why? Because America writ large behaves like a bully. You can't steal a country from a people without bullying them. You can't steal a people from another country and force them to do your labor without bullying them. So the United States was built, it's the United States of bullying in many.
That is so true. When people get shot in North Philly or South Side Chicago or wherever, there's always a kind of, oh, well, somebody dead, nigga dead, keep it moving. But there is, at least when we have a killing in Sandy Hook Elementary, right, or Columbine, in Colorado, we have a sense at least of this shouldn't happen here.
Right.
And there's a sense that innocence was disrupted, that there was loss, childhood innocence, white innocence, youth innocence, all of it together. If we're not willing to protect the people who we actually think matter and the children who we actually think deserve a childhood, then what does that say for the rest of us? But maybe more fundamentally, why are we willing to render those babies, even these vulnerable white babies, so dispensable, disposable, expendable?
Because, brother, we are more determined to preserve the illusion of the freedom to possess and use weapons of general destruction. This is a society that prides itself. I'm talking about psychologically, culturally. Look at country music, and everybody's wearing, even Beyonce wears a cowboy hat.
Right.
We talked about this earlier, about how most cowboys were black and Latino. Who else would do that hard kind of work?
Right.
But the culture is now that cowboys reflect whiteness, domination, violence, destruction, with impunity. You dig? And so that becomes part of the American psyche. If you look at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, this was an Indian war. The civilizers against the savages. Well, that's, of course, arguable, because when you look at the kind of vicious violence unleashed by the civilizers, you have to say that the so-called civilizers are pretty goddamn savage.
I can't imagine anything more savage than the so-called civilizers. The legislative response to this, the political response to this, is always, thoughts and prayers. We're so upset.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah,
what
thoughts
is
and prayers.
A theology, brother? The legislators priests, or are they politicians?
Right. Because all they got for us is thoughts and prayers,
That's it. That's the end of the discussion.
But as old pimp said,
my wife and I, we pray for the people who suffered. Next question.
And that's basically it. And then within 2 weeks, they go back to the status quo, which has always been keep the guns, keep the access to the guns, keep the unlimited, unrestricted access to the guns, and frame this unlimited access to the guns as a kind of protection and defense of American liberty, as opposed to an attempt to manage its excesses.
That's it. If anything is out of control, that part of America is out of control. But it's not spoken of in those terms, because it's not thought of in that consciousness. Politicians will either say, thoughts and prayers, but they'll say, well, we need to, look for mental health. It's all bullshit. I know it, they know it.
Right. They'll say, well, mental health is the issue here, and even if we had gun control and gun restrictions, it wouldn't stop this person from getting the gun. They got all these reasons why controlling guns doesn't control people getting killed with guns. And to me, it's like some Orwellian shit, To me, this is actually very straightforward. We have more guns than any country in the world. We have more murders than any country in the world. And we have more school shootings than any country in this world. So the guns lead to murders, and murderers lead to kids getting killed, right?
You have 1 minute left.
It ain't rocket science, bro. There are more guns in America than there are Americans in America.
Right.
What's that tell you?
Right. That's shameful. It's shameful. It's shameful. I don't know if there is a solution that's actionable outside of the obvious one, which is, again, let's control the guns. And again, I own weapons. I believe people should have a right to weapons. But, we're so far beyond what's reasonable and normal, man. I don't know what to do to get us back to a reasonable space.
It's a ways. It's quite a distance. And the NRA has made sure, for financial reasons, that they've neutered every politician in America with money.
Yeah, that's the perfect word to say it. Yeah, and this is the gun lot, we spend a lot of time lately talking about the Israel lobby, but the gun lobby, pro-life, these are all lobbies.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
Love you too, man. On the move. Yeah, the gun lobby is still, to me, the most powerful lobby in America. It's the one that controls interest. It's the one that shapes destiny. It's the one that undermines, progressive politics oftentimes, or the election of progressive candidates. It's tough out here. Anyway, thank you for listening to The Classroom and The Cell. This is Marc Lamont Hill and my co-host Mumia Abu Jamal. We are happy to do this podcast with you and for you. Please listen to every episode of the podcast right here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. You can get every single episode of The Classroom in the Cell. You can also check out other content, including Night School, my daily Monday to Friday program at 10:30 p.m. on YouTube, where I talk to the biggest names, the most powerful voices, where we engage in radical deconstructions and analysis and conversations about the issues that matter the most. It is not a TV show. It is not a podcast. It is the Global Classroom. Make sure you check it out. Also, hit the like button so the YouTube algorithms know that you're rocking with us. Hit the subscribe button as well so that you can increase our reach. And, of course, if you're so inclined, hit the join button and become a monthly subscriber to the channel. You can also support the channel financially by hitting Cash App or Venmo, MLHTV. On Cash App, it's $MLHTV. On Venmo, it's at MLHTV. And those funds help us build a studio, develop technology, and pay the bills for producers, editors, and everybody who makes this channel work. If you want your funds to go exclusively or directly to Mumia Abu Jamal and his legal defense or his living expenses, all you got to do is note that in the subject line, and every single penny will go to Mumia and only Mumia. Thank you for listening. On the move.